Welcome to the IBM Podcast Network.
This is the Geek Fruit Podcast with Jishnu and Untitled Chapter.
Hi, I'm Tejas.
Hey, I'm Jishnu.
And you're listening to the Geek Fruit Podcast, where this is a very exciting moment. It's our first episode, like officially first episode. We did one more before this.
But this one's real.
This one's like legit. This one's the real deal. And let's talk about it. The Geek Fruit Podcast, if you haven't heard episode 0, it's a nerdy podcast about everything. We're going to talk about everything that, is in the sphere of anything geeky, like in television, movies, I don't know, web stuff, comic books, podcasts maybe. Will we do an episode on podcasts?
Ooh, that would be really boring. But
that
yeah,
would be
sure.
really meta. Oh my god, a podcast about podcasts. Okay, yeah, but sure, I'm sure anything is possible within this sphere. So, Jishnu and I are just basically going to be talking about everything nerdy. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about the big one, which is actually what we spoke about in the previous episode. But it's so big, we decided, oh my god, it deserves its own...
Yeah, this is the thing that sort of gave us the reason to start Geek Fruit in the first place, is that we saw the first teaser trailer when it came out back in April, I guess.
We should probably mention the movie.
Yeah, that one. The space movie.
The space movie.
The one with the ray guns and the samurai
and the
helmets and beams of lasers.
Star Wars.
The Force Awakens, of course.
Yeah.
And when we saw that one teaser alone, way back when, that was reason enough for us to start weeping like little babies. You know it's true. You know.
Yeah,
right?
of course. No, I have no shame in admitting this. That I've cried every single time.
There's no denying that.
They've released a trailer, a teaser, and even in the movie, which we just saw.
I cried for 12 hours after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. We're going to talk about a lot of spoilers in the movie, so this is spoiler warning if you haven't seen it. I don't know what you're doing here listening to a podcast about Star Wars. That doesn't make any sense at all, but most probably you have seen it, so obviously we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some of the characters, some of our favorite moments, some of the things which we didn't like so much about the movie, because there are a few. Let our love for the franchise not blind us like the dark side does. Yeah, so there was a couple of things that we didn't like, but obviously not disappointed. It was a great movie. We both definitely loved it.
Yeah.
So should we get right into it then?
Yeah, so we actually booked tickets for this thing. We booked tickets for 2 shows within 24 hours of each other.
Yeah.
So the first viewing was on Thursday night at 11 p.m. and the second viewing was Friday afternoon at 4:30. Something like that. Which, in theory, going into it, we were super amped about it. Yes, it's going to be great. Twice in one day. This is the way to do it. Oh, yeah. But then, tell me what your memory of the post experience was like. The experience of walking out of the theater. So my experience was, once we finished seeing the movie the first time around.
Yeah.
We walked out.
Oh my god.
I didn't say a word to anybody. That I remember very clearly, because I didn't want to freaking talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Just got in a cab and weeped on the way home.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
Emotionally drained as all hell.
Yeah, it was really depressed. I don't think I've ever walked out of a film so depressed. Obviously it was a great film.
Yeah.
But obviously the major spoiler of the film is that Han Solo dies.
Right.
And the way his death is so brutal to fans everywhere that you're just after that I couldn't pay attention to whatever was happening. I think the second time around, it was, like you said, it was easier to kind of, get through.
We could at least process what we were looking at.
So I could really understand the ending much better. I mean, not understand, obviously it's
appreciate the ending.
Yeah, I could appreciate,
better.
acknowledge what was going on. Because there's an entire scene which actually... Poe Dameron, which is played by Oscar Isaac, he takes the X-Wing and he goes in, and I didn't remember that the first time, but he goes single-handedly.
You forgot that he did the exact same trench run all over again.
No, so they all do the trench run, but he's the only one who goes inside the Millennium Falcon does in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And he goes single-handedly and blows up these things. I didn't remember that the first time because I was still I cannot believe Han Solo is dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So let's just overall review. We definitely liked it. Let's get over with the review. We definitely love the movie. Yes?
Yeah, this is no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. J.J. Abrams did an excellent job. I think now all reviews of the film are less to do with whether we liked it or not. It's completely a great film. But now more to do with what's at stake, what are the characters, what did we like, what did we not like. So, Jishnu, why don't you start with... I mean, now that we have got over I mean, I don't think we'll ever truly get over
I'm not
Han
over
Solo's
it.
death. Yeah.
I'm
But
really
first
not
off,
over
by
it.
the way, for all your, I have to bring this up. I was completely spoiler free before the movie.
Yeah, okay, so let me tell you the one stupidest spoiler that I got. I wish I could remember the username of this guy who put up this video, because I would just chew him.
Oh, and sorry, I just want to precursor this. Jishnu went out of his way to keep like himself free from spoilers, right? He deleted Facebook.
I deleted all my social media from my phone. I turned off all my bookmarks. I downloaded this stupid app on Chrome that was blocking Star Wars for me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The one thing that I continued to use was YouTube, because I thought to myself, well,
dude, how?
I unsubscribed from Nerdist, I unsubscribed from Geek and Sundry, I unsubscribed from a whole bunch of like
related videos,
stuff,
comments. So they're always gonna ruin you.
So what I did was I looked up, interviews and things like that, and I because I wanted to see the build up to it. I wanted to see what they themselves were officially putting out in just building up the frenzy,
video content.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
One stupid idiot within like 5 days of the movie coming out on the 18th, so it was probably like the 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah.
Literally a day or two before we saw it, some jackass put up a video that was only a day old when I saw it, and it was in the related video section on the side, so I only saw the thumbnail.
Title.
The image was Han, and all it said was...
Solo?
No, I think it was old Han. I don't know. It was like, it was a shot of Han, and the title was just Farewell Han Solo.
Oh my god.
And that just... Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I thought, I had 2 days to process it. I figured, like, the safest bet was probably going to be Han.
Yeah,
I did genuinely think that, like, all money is on Han, because the fact that they were building up...
the droids were gonna die.
I would have loved it. I knew they wouldn't, because, I mean, that's
obviously,
why I would want it to, because it's so, gut-wrenching. But I think it was the safest bet simply because of the fact that they were pushing Harrison forward like nobody else as far as publicity for this movie.
Right.
And they were building him up so much. And we know that, he's stayed away from the limelight about Han Solo for years, and, he doesn't really like to get involved with all this. So it makes sense for him to come back really strong and then go out a hero.
Yeah,
which is exactly what he did.
Coup de grace, yeah.
Exactly. So he's like, he's basically pulled like, like a Sam Jackson. If I'm going to be in this movie, I need to get a purple lightsaber.
I need to go out.
If I'm going to be in this movie, you need to like pay me a shit ton of money, and I need to go out looking badass as all hell.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what he did.
Sure, he had a very, very meaningful death. So, I mean, obviously he's killed off by his own son, Ben Solo. Man, that one moment when he screams like Ben, like in that, I was like, oh my god, that was like, this movie was full of feels. So I'm very proud to say that I was not spoiled. I was not spoiled by anything. And it's so funny, because the 5 of us who work at Geek Fruit, out of all of us, 4 of you guys all got spoiled. So one of our friends, 2 of them knew that Han Solo is, Ben Solo's father, or Kylo Ren's father in this case.
Oh,
that's
actually worse.
Yeah.
So
they knew that.
Been more upset if I knew that.
It's slightly earlier in the film that revealed through Supreme Leader Snoke, who's supposed to be the major villain.
But still.
So they knew that. And I think also another one of our colleagues, Basha, she knew that Han Solo dies as well.
Oy.
I don't know how she found it. I think she read it on something like, but like it would seem to be a review, but like a spoiler-free review, but like ruined, and I got away scot-free. That was amazing. I'm so happy about that, because the effect of it was really, really profound. I think when it happened, like you can see it happening a mile away before it happens. I think this is the major moment of the film.
Of course,
that whole thing, bring us on home.
Yeah.
Yada 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 goes up, and he's
but the fact, what I loved is like the fact that, I mean, while it mirrored the Vader and Kenobi battle in part 4, I think that what I really liked, which gave me like a ray of hope, as it I think was meant to,
pun intended,
boom, was that he says, Kylo Ren says, please help me.
Yeah.
If you can you do what can you do? And Han says, I'll do anything and everything.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
So there's that like half second of like, hey, this guy actually has some good in him and he's willing.
I think, what I really love about that, and this is like the next part, I think, of what should be our discussion, because we can't just go, we can pretty much go over Han Solo's death like over and over again, but I think the real good thing is that there's this bunch of really, really good new characters, which I love all 4 of them. That's Oscar Isaac's Poe Dameron, was a pilot from the Resistance. There's John Boyega's character is Finn, who's actually really interesting because he's a stormtrooper who goes to the good side, to the light. There's Daisy Ridley, who's my personal favorite, who's Rey, and who's a scavenger. And then you have Kylo Ren, who's Ben Solo, played by Adam Driver. So amazing
And
four
BB.
characters.
And BB.
BB-8, who's effectively the new R2-D2, who actually doesn't show up much in this movie, R2-D2 that is. And just like BB-8, man, stole the show from right from the start. Really, really good character. Really, I mean, all the characters that they've come up with are kind of shades of like original three from A New Hope, and that's what a lot of people are saying about this film, is that, you know, it's pretty much A New Hope remix, right? And they didn't try too hard to kind of go really left of center, and I think that's fine, because, well, any amount of the criticism that is coming for this film is that, you know, it's exactly modeled after A New Hope. I think that's fine, though. I think that's completely fine. A few things did bother me, which is like which we'll get to, which is the ending of the film. But overall, in terms of the major beats of this, I mean, it starts with, you know, Oscar Isaac's character, you know, giving BB-8 this map, which is very, very similar to, you know, Ben, You're My Only Hope, which is Leia giving R2, you know, the plans for the Death Star. So I think, in terms of just formula-wise, what did you think? Like, did that jar with you a little bit? Again, pun intended. But did that work for you? I don't know. For me, it was fine though.
It worked fine for me because we'd seen 3 attempts at creating a whole new archetype for Star Wars with the prequels, and people, you know, will never shut up about how much they hate those movies, even though I kind of like them. They're okay.
Love them.
And now the fact that people are saying, well, the 7th one is too much like the 4th one. It's like, well, you just bitched about it for like 10 years about how much you didn't like the new stuff and how much you missed the old stuff, and now somebody gives you the old stuff, and you're complaining about that. It's like, well, there's no pleasing anybody, because you're just going to hold the originals so dear and so close to yourself that, you know, you don't want anything encroaching upon that. Hence, you feel like if 7 is copying it, it's like, well, why don't you give me something new? It's like, you already did. You gave me something new and you hated it. So I think I got tired of this conversation the minute that it came up with that.
Okay, fair enough.
Too much like
No, of
A
course.
New Hope.
Having said that, so the prequels have also a kind of paradigm, which kind of fits really well with the original trilogy, is that, you know, the first movie, which is Phantom Menace and New Hope, both have like this celebration ending, which is kind of like, it's got a little bit of a lead on to the next film, and then the second and third kind of are put together, like in terms of like how they lead up to each other. But the first film is always kind of independent in the fact that, you know, the heroes win, bad guys die, everything is good again. End of Phantom Menace, we do have the death of, you know, Qui-Gon, but it's primarily Naboo being freed of the Trade Federation, and it's kind of good. Same thing for New Hope. In this movie, it felt like it was almost like really dark, the ending. Like,
it did.
It's not. It's very Empire Strikes Back and less kind of New Hope. So
totally.
I found that like kind of interesting. I think that is what really separates it, like, you know, from the original, you know, idiom that is Star Wars. You know, that has these major beats. What do you think of the ending?
I was very curious. I felt very curious about the ending, because I could go off on a whole other tangent about like, you know, marketing for film these days and like what that is all about.
Yeah, but let's leave that.
I've talked your ear off about that, and I can do that again and again. But what I did find very curious was the fact that they ended it sort of mid-scene like that, right? Which is very much a TV thing. That's what you do, like, tune in next week to see the continuing adventures of Luke Skywalker and Rey. Blah, blah, blah. But now it's for a film that's going to come out in like 2 years and stuff. And so like you're leaving it in media res like that. And so that's just, you know, I feel like what I'm wondering about is, I don't know if that was simply because they wanted to try something new, like Star Wars has never ended literally on a cliffhanger like that. Is that because they want to try that because it's new, or is it simply because in this day and age, this generation, people just wouldn't care if we don't leave them right there?
Yeah, you know, I don't think people care as much for a closure or resolution as much as they do for something that is like piques their interest for something.
Right,
else.
exactly. Because like, they could have ended it like, you know, 5 minutes prior to where it did, where in which she kisses John Boyega saying, I'll see you soon. She has the map to Luke, and we're done. We know eventually they will go there. We didn't need to see her going to Luke and doing the big reveal, although epic as it was, and I loved it. But it just felt a little uneasy because you don't see a movie ending like that. So I guess
I think it's
that's kind of exciting that movies are kind of now like, you know, falling into TV, because TV is becoming as cinematic as movies are. So like movies are now having to pull off TV stunts like this.
Good point.
And things like that.
So yeah, for sure. I mean, like also just like the ending. I mean, I think it's also because everyone is really, really familiar now that Star Wars is like a saga, and it it necessarily has to have a part 2, part 3 for every, you know, first film that they make. I think definitely there's no no harm in just, creating that real awesome, and
Right.
it works so well, I mean, for all the for all the things that we've said, oh, where's Luke Skywalker, like, they really made the whole movie about where's Luke Skywalker,
And honestly,
he's the MacGuffin, for this film, which is something that George Lucas invented. Like, you need some, kind of item or a person or something to drive the narrative, and the whole movie is about Luke Skywalker, even though he's not even there.
I distinctly recall the moment of just going back a little bit to the actual experience of watching it when we saw it the first time around, especially. For one, so we saw it in IMAX.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until like the second that I saw the word Star Wars come on screen, I have never seen Star Wars that big in my life.
Yeah,
that was
sure.
one. Two, like, loud as all hell and beautiful surround sound, and I was like, holy crap, this is insane. And then the first words you see are Luke Skywalker's vanished. I distinctly recall making this sound.
Yeah, I know.
I genuinely squealed and like grabbed your arm because I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, it was real.
Because like I realized I haven't seen the words Luke Skywalker in that font on a yellow space background in so long. And so I loved immediately that they set up, okay, he's not in this. He's gone.
He's gone, yeah.
We're talking about somebody else right now. And I loved that. And so with speaking of the whole saga and everything,
right.
I realized with this argument of like, it's too similar to New Hope and stuff, I think they've sort of gone a little bit beyond saga into now sort of being a bit more operatic.
Yeah.
In that it's really artsy and way to look at it, I think. But I think it's true that they've now branched off in such a way that when you do things like have a second trench run, or actually yes, maybe like even the third trench run, and you have, this whole family drama soap opera thing that's just continuing on and on and on. When you see these little things come back again, I sort of see them sort of as like how, you would see it in a drama, like on a Shakespearean kind of a way.
For sure, yeah.
Like you see references back again. So like within music, you'd see like the same kind of melody recurring back and again.
So I think it's less about like formula and more about like what is, nature to this kind of story.
Exactly. It's created such a rich universe that like you cannot escape it.
You can't escape it,
I think that's what one of the problems with the prequels is that like it wasn't doing justice to what was already existing, and sort of it tried to be like a weird step cousin of some sort. It was like, we're kind of related, but we're doing our own thing for the most part. This one was very much like, I am the son of these other movies, and I will do it exactly the same way, but I will, form my own path, if that makes any sense.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, J.J. Abrams has done enough to kind of change it a little bit, because we don't have the exact same characters. And that's something that this whole movie is, like, really, really surrounding. I mean, the whole point of making this movie was to kind of kickstart the new generation of Star Wars, and they've done it with these really interesting characters. I think, like, not one character is exactly like the previous three, like Han Solo, Luke, and Leia. We have, people who are Force sensitive. Like, there's definitely Rey, who seems to be the centerpiece of this entire film. But she's not exactly but obviously, I mean, for the one thing, we don't know anything about her, her parentage. That's a whole mystery that shrouds this film. We have Finn, who's not exactly like Han Solo, but he's not exactly like a Jedi either. So where does he really fit in? And he's got an interesting backstory as well, being a stormtrooper. So I think that was like really different. And like, we don't really know what his beat is, like what his story narrative is going to be. At the same time, we have Oscar Isaac, and like he's kind of like Han Solo because he's got the humor, which is one of the first funny jokes in the film is the one that he cracks, is where he's talking to, it's almost like very meta, where he's like, I can't understand what you're saying through the mask. It's great. And so we have, this Han Solo-ish kind of character, but we don't know how
everybody has a good amount of the original three within them.
Ingredients.
Yeah, each one has like a nice mix of each.
So I think,
three
that way J.J. Abrams has done something really interesting with the characters. And obviously, it goes without saying, Kylo Ren, definitely one of my favorite, new villains, because
I'm so glad he didn't die.
Yeah, of course, he can't.
I was, the second time around, since I could actually understand what I was looking at after Han died, that final lightsaber battle, which was insane.
It was great,
I remember that the first time around, although I was very much in the back of my mind, I was really clenched, thinking about, oh my god, please don't kill this guy, please don't kill him, because he's so good, I don't want him to die, because that's what happened with Darth Maul and stuff, right? I want him to stay on, because he's got a good story, he's doing it well, for the love of God, let him
but I think
have a good saga. And
also, Darth Maul was never, supposed to be, he was supposed to be a real menacing villain, and, a very physical kind of thing, and obviously Palpatine is the main, kind of baddie in that. But, in this, obviously, they've set him up to be, with the whole talking to the Darth Vader helmet and everything. He's got a very important role, so I didn't feel like they were going to kill him off anyway. So I think let's take a break. We'll just come back. We'll talk about a little more about what we really loved about our favorite scenes, some of the worst scenes, and we'll get to it. Yeah. So we'll be back after this tiny break.
Now, if you want to listen to some brilliant indie music from all over the country, it's really simple. You can find me on Made in India. That's madeinindia.in. My name is May, and it's spelled M-A-E-D. Now, I've had some great artists on the show, including the likes of Nikhil D'Souza, The Cognac Net, Last Remaining Light, Tejas Menon, The Other People, Alicia Pays, Lakshmi Baum, Vasudha Sharma, Ankur Tiwari, and so many more. Now, if you want to subscribe, you can go to iTunes or Stitcher or your favorite podcast app, or you can find me on my website. That's madeinindia.in. That's M-A-E-D, or on Twitter and Facebook on Made in India.
Right, we're back. This is the Geek Fruit Podcast. You're listening to me, Tejas.
And I'm the other guy, Jishnu.
Okay, cool. Yep. We're talking about The Force Awakens. And yeah, man, awesome movie. My favorite movie this year, by the way. Like, yeah, objectivity lost completely.
Well, let's start off with where do you rank it?
In like this year?
No, not this year.
In the saga?
In the saga.
Oh. I think I do. I was telling you guys this, like, if we have to now include it into, like, what is our favorite films. Like, ranking-wise, I think it's going to be 5, 7, 4, 3, 6, 2, 1. Yeah, because I don't know, it's difficult between 4 and 7 though. Like, I don't know, because they're kind of the same movie. Like, you know, yeah. Empire Strikes Back still, I mean, it's still the best film for a reason.
I go 4, 6, 5, 7, 3, 2, 1.
4, 6, 5. What? You like 4 and 6 better than you like 5?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I think 4 definitely is what, like, it's an awesome film. Like, you know, I was just thinking about it the other day. And you know, FN 2187, that's Finn's like stormtrooper kind of code. Yeah. 2187 is the name of the cell in which she was. I was just remembering that. I was like, wow, that's so awesome that they did that. That's great. So yeah, that whole cell block, you know, that and you know, Tango, if you will, and like, you know, the trash compactor scene, just so great, man. That the first film was amazing for a reason. Like, it just set up everything. Like, from scratch, literally. Like, nothing to go behind it, you know. Awesome film. So, yeah, definitely 4 is quite up there for me also. But Empire Strikes Back really makes Star Wars.
So, what was your favorite scene in this one?
Oh, man, so many good ones. I think definitely, like, my favorite... I don't know, like, Han Solo's death is too sad for me to make it my favorite scene, though it would be kind of cruel. But one that really stands out is Rey getting the lightsaber out of the snow. Like, right at the end, when you realize that, you know, this whole John Boyega being the Jedi in this film is you know, a falsehood, and that obviously it's Rey who's, you know, strongest with the Force. When it's Kylo Ren, he's reaching out for it, and it goes to her, and she picks it up. And that was like a standout moment. I think it worked better for me in the second time because, like, again, like I said, you know, I could get over the whole Han Solo thing. Just worked so much better. The entire fight sequence served so much better as a, you know, as a scene post that. It was so much easier to digest and it was much better. And I really loved that moment, obviously. I mean, you know, we both are like huge Mark Hamill fans. Just to see him at the end, even he's got no dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah.
And just like his face, man, just that acting is superb. Like, it's, I don't know if I'm so invested in it, but like, I know truly, just objectively wise also, he just did such a great job with just emoting. And that's the only second time we hear the Imperial March in the whole film, by the way. The first time is when obviously you see the helmet. And the second time is when you see him. I was like, wow, that's crazy, because like obviously this, you know, this troubled childhood, I'd say, you know, he has got this daddy issues, it's still running through his soul, you know, and it's there right at the end. So I think that was also like my other favorite scene. What about you?
I really enjoyed the scene where Boyega, Ford, and Chewbacca are being captured by the First Order, and then the X-Wings come in.
Yeah,
and then there's the one really long shot where
that circular shot.
Yeah, where Boyega just like watches Bo flying and it says, you know, like that's a great pilot or something like that.
That's an awesome scene. That's a real field scene.
Because that was JJ being a fan and being JJ the amazing visionary director.
Yeah, sure.
Because like at that moment of like just you're seeing this enormous practical set with all these, you know, constructed props that are being blown all to hell.
Yeah.
And then all he has to do is look up at the sky.
Yeah.
And then he just CGIs this one X-Wing.
Shot,
which I think also the idea that Bo had a black X-Wing versus the other ones that were white and different colors. Like you could identify his X-Wing, which you could never do before. There's never been other than the Falcon, you could never identify one specific fighter and be like, I know exactly who's in that.
Yeah.
And in this case, you could. And so like all these little things coming together, and the fact that he finally, you know, JJ knows how to make a visual effects driven film
he's
really
so
well.
Solid there,
so this was like a fanboy doing what he does best, and he did it so damn well.
Yeah,
so
that was a great
I've
moment,
never seen Star Wars quite executed like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that really...
Yeah, just like some of the shots, you know, like I like how he's like improved the original thing of Star Wars. You know, like how I think there's a moment where it's right at the start of the film where Poe and Finn are kind of back to back in that, you know, in the TIE fighter.
Oh, the TIE! I loved that.
That was a great scene,
I
right?
loved that. Absolutely.
And you know,
loved that.
there's this one shot which kind of moves from the. It's like it's almost on like a dolly shot, like where it kind of moves 180 degrees, and it moves directly from him to him, and you see both of them, and it's so great because like in the original they've only cut between, you know, people and stuff, and I like how they did that. Like one of the early scenes also with BB-8, like again that circular shot. It's just like, you know, improving the technology to showcase Star Wars, the story of Star Wars, and I think that he's done a great job there.
But it never got in the way.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm also really glad that he's had 2 Star Trek movies to like get his lens flare nonsense out of the way. It didn't bother me. Like he's really toned down.
Really toned down.
If this was JJ like 10 years ago, I'd be a little worried. After like I loved Super 8, but like if he had just made Super 8 and then made this movie, I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah, this is only his 5th film ever.
And now the fact that he's had some time to like really
get into it.
Get into his groove.
He's good, man.
He's so good. Yeah. You know, like,
he did a great job. He's basically done what an intelligent fan would have done. You know, taken the story in that direction.
Oh man.
So a couple of really good scenes there. Other good moments. I mean, obviously Han Solo had to say, "I have a bad feeling about this." That was solid.
I started choking up the minute I heard at the end of that exact scene. Once the battle is done, and then the rebellion comes down, or the resistance lands, and Leia walks out. Before she walks out, the theme song, their theme song comes up. And actually, in hindsight, I'm a little disappointed that they've used the theme song in the trailer. Not the theme song. I mean the Han and Leia's.
The Force theme.
Han and Leia's theme.
Okay, Han and Leia's theme. All right.
Like from Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
So they used that in the trailer as well when they showed Han and Leia together for the first time hugging in the trailer, right? So
awesome theme. Yeah.
The minute I heard that, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I had an inkling that Han was going to die because it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
So, like in the back of my mind, I was like, shit, this might be the last time I hear this song with the 2 of them in the thing. Like they might use it again later on, like, you know, with just Leia reminiscing, oh, my dead husband, oh, he was so great, why did I leave him? But I loved seeing them together.
And even Anthony Daniels, a great moment.
That was just
C-3PO just popping his head in.
That felt like
perfect.
That felt exactly like a recreation of the scene in Part 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so perfect. Like, I mean, just well used. Like all the characters, like original characteristics. He's just used them perfectly in this film. I really like that. Yeah, just awesome scenes, man. Like I really loved the start with, you know, Rey and even Finn and how they're like kind of getting along in the beginning and just like, you know, you don't need to hold my hand. That was great.
This is a great year for feminism between Rey and Furiosa.
For sure.
This is a great year for like strong female leads in giant blockbuster movies.
And just so good, she handled it so well. She's like pretty much like the Luke Skywalker of this film. And just like there's that one great moment also, how he's done reveals also so well, where they're just running towards like, you know, trying to get away from, you know, the First Order on Jakku, and she's like, oh, he's like, what about that ship? He's like, that's garbage. That's garbage. And then the ship they're going to explodes. So he's like, I guess the garbage will do. And it's like the Millennium Falcon. That was so good. Oh my god.
I saw a lot of times when Han was being his most Han. I saw a lot of Indiana Jones actually in the way in which he did things. Like for one, his entrance, like when they run into the Falcon like that, it was very it felt very much like Indy running into a scene and
his
like
jacket,
like everything about that. And like, you know, when they go to see Maz, like it's like, hey, welcome to, you know, the Lost Ark or something.
Exactly.
Like
that's what they said, right? The Han Jones Raiders of the Lost Force. That's what it looks like.
There was so much about what he was, just the way in which he was presented visually and like the way that he was blocked and like the way they filmed him. It didn't feel like Han, because when I think about it, I'm more used to seeing Han just sitting down at the helm of the Falcon. Or I'm used to seeing him with a blaster, which he didn't do nearly as much. Because now he's taking Chewie's thing, which was more... Again, I could see Indiana Jones with a crossbow more than I could see Han Solo with a crossbow. You know what I mean? Like there were these little things that...
But I think, like, in terms of his dialogue, his delivery was like not Indian. It was very Han Solo. Like, there's this one moment which is so great where he's just like, I was in sanitation, and that's what I used to do on the, you know, on the Starkiller base. And he's like, oh, how are we gonna find this? And he's like, we'll use the Force. And he's like, that's not how the Force works. That was so Han. You know, that was so Han. It was so great.
But
like,
you know,
well written.
Now that, you know, I spent like weeks looking at all their interviews and the whole build-up and Comic-Con panels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Han Solo getting into Harrison Ford after all these years, or if it's just the fact that I'm now that I've seen Harrison Ford a lot more than I knew about him when I was a kid when I'd seen the original movies.
Right.
I'm seeing the bleed over between Harrison Ford, the real guy, and Han Solo, the fictitious character.
It happens a lot.
There were a lot of moments where I was just like, that's just Harrison Ford saying what he would
because
say.
Because he's just a grumpy old man.
Because he's just a grumpy old man. Like, everything just felt like you saw the Conan sketch that he did, right? With J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
Like, that could have been Han Solo. Like, there was, like, a lot of those lines, the way just, like, so curmuggeon-y, is just like, that's literally Han 30 years later.
And it's great because, like, you know, there's a good reasoning for it. You know, he's not with his wife. He's lost his son. He's you know, he could be an old man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and the other thing is that, just that, like, I think we see that happen with so many actors, like, you know, just like with Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Like, he's Tony Stark just generally also. It's just the way he behaves on Twitter, you know, his posts on Facebook, everything's the same. Yeah. So I'm not surprised to see that, though that was great.
So what was your least favorite?
I would say, least favorite is a good way of putting it. No, there were no really terrible scenes. I think, there's a couple of moments which I didn't enjoy. I mean, I know this was bothering both of us, but the fact that, you know, the Starkiller base is so epic and it's so cool.
Yeah.
And there's even a joke about that, you know, it's just a bigger Death Star, you know, and we can totally destroy it. And I thought really that, you know, okay, this is going to be a rescue kind of mission. They're going to get these people back. They're going to cripple the enemy for sure. But they're not going to destroy the whole Starkiller base? Really?
Like, that could have been a really simple, elegant way of saying, yes, it's like a Death Star, but you cannot destroy an entire planet. We can destroy a planet, but you can't destroy
exactly.
planets.
And it's got a great name, you know, it's Starkiller. It's actually a Starkiller because it absorbs the energy from the surrounding or the neighboring sun.
Did you know that was originally Luke's thing?
Yes, Luke Starkiller. Yeah, because if you've played Force Unleashed, the game also, like his name also is like Starkiller, like as in like there's a reference to that also because. You know, it's just like a thing that they've picked up and used. So I thought it was great. It was a really smart way of doing it. And, you know, everyone is so, like, destroyed at the fact, they've, instead of a Death Star killing one Alderaan, they've killed, like, 4 Republic, you know, base planets.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone's like, oh my god, they've killed so many people.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no cut to Luke Skywalker suddenly sitting down and saying, oh my god, there's so many planets have been destroyed.
Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say, like, a million voices crying out.
Yeah, obviously, they didn't do that. But, I mean, like, and then they go and just casually destroy this entire planet, which is also full of people, maybe possibly full of Finns, which is one of, you know, my, you know, arguments is that in this whole planet of, you know, this whole Starkiller planet of, like, you know, bad guys and stormtroopers.
Right.
Why is Finn the only one with a conscience?
Right.
And that's like... I
really need to know more about Finn to get his motivation in the next movie. And I also really need to see Rey brought down back to like our level. Because like she was... The one issue that I had with Rey, while I loved her, as we all did, was that she was basically infallible.
She's indestructible.
She's been unchallenged.
Yeah.
Like, nobody has matched her in any way. Like, from the minute we see her, like, John Boyega's like, hey, let me help you. And she's like, screw you, I don't need help. And then she never needs help.
Yeah, forever.
For the entire movie.
Yeah.
Everybody has some moment of, like, struggle and, like, if somebody else doesn't save me, I'm dead. She always saves herself. She's always fine on her own. And so this next movie... I need to either see Luke Skywalker in a backpack on her back while she's jumping around doing gymnastics. If that doesn't happen, then I need to see Luke like beat her the hell up and like have her really like question her very being before she's allowed to become some sort of amazing Jedi Master.
Yeah, so on that note, let's just talk about now the implications of this film. There's a lot of stuff which is still left in mystery. Obviously, one of the biggest things about this film which kind of got my attention is the flashback sequence, which has never happened before in Star Wars because everyone kind of tells you what happens. You know, Obi-Wan says, Anakin was a great pilot, and it's just shown, like, the discussion. But it's the first time we have this almost Harry Potter kind of sequence.
Which is actually a very JJ thing.
Yeah?
If you look at
flashbacks.
every single movie he's made, he's always... this one he's done it the least by far.
Yeah.
But he's always had flashback sequences.
But the flashback sequence is so good.
It worked fine.
So well done in this.
And I think it usually works fine for what his movies have been. I think it always works within the storyline.
It's singular, but like they move through so many different moments.
I was like, I had my fingers crossed that I wouldn't see a JJ flashback, but I'm glad that it worked the way it did.
It worked
fine.
It worked really well. There's something about Maz's character.
It did what it needed,
yeah, you know,
I'm really excited to get to know Maz better.
Yeah, really really
very
good character.
Yeah.
Really good
She's
character.
been alive for like 1,000 years or something.
Which makes, she possibly knows like people like Yoda and stuff like that. You know, it's like,
so she's been around for the entire saga.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like that they did that because now, you know, she
I'm glad
becomes an
somebody is now a connective tissue for this entire thing.
and she becomes an easy narrative source, you know.
Yeah.
You can just say, oh, she's, you know, it's like what Hermione is in like Harry Potter. It's just that, you know, if you need to put in a piece of trivia, she just says, oh, Hermione knows it. Similarly here, you can just say, oh, Mars is, you know, this wealth of knowledge, which clearly is.
Which Yoda would be too, but I guess if you don't want to see a Force Ghost Yoda, you have a real person that you can...
no Force Ghost in this film.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually a little relieved.
Yeah, but Mars is great. Obviously, let's discuss that entire dream sequence. So what do you, like, it's not even a dream sequence. So, number of things that obviously pop up. You see the Knights of Ren, over what seems to be many bodies.
Yeah.
This is obviously about, you know, Luke's attempt to kind of restructure like the Jedi Order, but he fails because Ben Solo comes and he gets swayed to the dark side, and because of that Luke runs away and goes into hiding. So this is a lot on him, like it was like, you know, like a lot of responsibilities is on Luke Skywalker, which is why I guess he's isolated himself. Another really cool thing which I just thought was so great is that Luke has kind of gone to this really just water-based planet, which I find really awesome because like he's lived his entire life on Tatooine, and he's like picked this, you know, planet which is like the nicest.
Which Rey said as well. She's like, I've never seen this much. I never knew this much green existed when she walked on the Mars.
Yeah, and I just found that really nice that, you know,
some parallels.
He's retired to this really like place which will not remind him anything.
He went to Florida. He got old and then moved to Florida and was like, I'm just going to stay on this
really
awesome
nice
island beach thing.
Knoll.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Like I thought that was really nice. Anyway, so coming back to this sequence, a couple of things. You can hear Yoda's voice. You can hear Ewan McGregor's voice, which I read also somewhere. There was another theory that, oh, maybe she's Obi-Wan's, like, you know. But, you know, it seems too easy to make her Luke Skywalker's daughter. What do you think?
I don't buy it.
Too easy.
I think it's too easy. I think she should have... But I would like for her to have her own...
Story?
Her own story.
But, like, if it's going to be all about the Skywalkers, is like...
But I don't think it's going to be all about the Skywalkers for long. That's why they've introduced these new main characters, right, for this one entire movie. They've killed off Han. They're going to kill off somebody else in the next... If not the next one, then the one after that, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to continue beyond these three movies. Like, with these solo flicks that are coming up, Star Wars is getting bigger and bigger. Like, so it's potentially getting out of hand for it to just be the Skywalker family.
Possible.
We were always gunning for the Starks in Game of Thrones, and now it's well beyond the Starks.
Yeah, it's well beyond
and
that.
I think that's kind of what's happening here as well.
But then, I mean, it's a stretch to kind of compare those two, because Game of Thrones is like grounded in this real kind of realism.
Sure, but I mean... Yeah, if Luke had the kid, it would be way too simple. If Obi-Wan had it, my argument is he was always pure. Yeah. He was always like, he would remain, you know...
Yeah.
He would never
celibate.
he would remain celibate. He would never go down that... Luke might, because Luke was never...
He was unorthodox.
Yeah, he was always a little bit odd.
Yeah.
And never got official training in that way.
Yeah.
So he might, but then it would just be too easy.
But then,
Obi-Wan
how else
shouldn't
is she so strong with the Force? Like,
if she's somebody else...
But then, like, it just seems like...
There were other people in the galaxy.
Fair enough. I mean, like, we can't say that she was conceived by the Force like Anakin was. I mean, there's a lot of mystery surrounding her parents. Like, there's a couple of scenes, and Lars von Sauron, I don't know what his name is, Max von Sydow's character, basically. He seems to be like the Obi-Wan figure here.
Yeah.
That has kind of... He gives the map to Luke, so obviously he has connections to Luke.
Yep.
And he also has connections to Rey. Like, he's been watching over her, clearly, because he's on the same planet.
Yep.
So definitely there's some connection.
Qui-Gon Jinn, maybe?
No.
We never bring him up. Maybe he, you know...
No, I think they're done with the prequels. They will never reference, I think, the prequels. Like,
I think they will.
Except for one major thing, which we'll get to, about Snoke, which I did a little research on.
Okay.
But yeah, just generally, it would be too neat for, you think, like, to have Luke Skywalker be her father.
Yeah.
Or adoptive father, I don't know, something. But, like, how is she so strong in the Force? I mean, like, Anakin's grandson.
I guess if we could, you could ask the bigger question, why are the Skywalkers so strong with the Force?
Because Anakin was conceived by the Force.
Right, so then maybe, why couldn't somebody else be conceived by the Force?
I mean,
like, why was this kid conceived?
Because, like, it
what's so
was
special
like
about
part of
that
a prophecy and stuff. There's another theory. Okay, now this is a good, like, segue, I think. So, about Snoke. Okay, and obviously, big question mark on that guy. What do you think, first of all, of his, like, size and just, like,
his opening scene was insane.
Yeah, it was great.
I loved it. I think I mentioned this to you. I'm hopeful that it eventually turns out to be that Rey manages to turn Kylo, who eventually comes onto the light side, and then they both go to fight Snoke, but then Kylo dies.
That seems
on the
like
light
likely.
side. Yeah.
Redemption, catharsis also gets his just desserts
Yeah,
for
exactly.
killing his dad.
Exactly.
You know?
It's my hope that Snoke was pulling the strings all along somehow,
Yeah.
and then Rey and Kylo realizes that because Rey manages to convince him
Yeah.
that, hey, you're really awesome and you're being used, and so they both go on a mission together in episode 9, maybe.
So is Rey and Ren like a love story then?
Rey and Ren aren't a love story, let's say. I'd put them
As siblings, like kind of, not siblings, but like, more.
Why can't they just be friends?
Yeah.
Why is it
Have you
always
seen
about
when Harry
love
met
and-
Sally?
Yeah, right.
A guy and girl, especially strong in the Force,
Why
cannot
can't they
be
just
friends.
be friends?
Yeah. No, but I think, so here's the thing about Snoke. It's a great theory that he's Darth Plagueis, which is what, Plagueis, which is what, I mean, Palpatine kind of mentions him, Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah.
He says, he brought people back from the dead.
Right.
And that's what really tempts Anakin to kind of join the dark side initially.
Yeah.
And like he says, whatever happened to him, he died in his sleep because his apprentice killed him, which is who Palpatine is, Darth Sidious. Now here's the great thing. If he is Darth Plagueis, kind of fits everything because
He looks undead.
he looks completely undead. And there's no saying that, if he couldn't bring people back from the dead.
Why can't he bring himself back from the dead?
Yeah, why can't he bring himself back, And he looks kind of undead, he looks kind of weird. And that would be great, because, this goes really, really much deeper than we thought. That would be really awesome. The other thing is, there was somebody said, just check out the music that is being played when you see Snoke, and check out the music when they're talking about Darth Plagueis. And I did it. So I went to Revenge of the Sith, the score, and I heard it. And it's in that little, arena where they're having a conversation. And there's a kind of opera going on. And there's this really low...
In the arena that who's...
this is in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, it's basically Palpatine is called for, Anakin. And he says, come sit with me. So so they have this discussion. And he tells him about Darth Plagueis the Wise. And he says, and if you listen to the music... And I checked, it's the exact same music that they're playing when Snoke is revealed for the first time. It's that low hum kind. Just check it out. It's exactly the same. I thought that was really telling. The other thing is that he's called Darth Plagueis the Wise, and the first thing that Han Solo says, he says, he's using you. He's going to use you, and he's going to toss you out when you're done.
Yeah.
And all he replies is, "The Supreme Leader is wise." And it feels weird, but it's like it could be.
Yeah.
It could. So
it would make complete sense.
and I wouldn't, put it past JJ to kind of, do this kind of really nice. Seating, right in the first one. It would be great. I think it would be really awesome. Yeah.
I'm hoping for that.
Yeah. So
I would like
Snoke,
to see
really
those.
good character. Rey, big question mark. Is she Luke's daughter? What do you think? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, cool. I'm going to say with yes, just to play the devil's advocate here. I really want her to be also in some
Just
level.
to spite me.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. So, wow, we could really go on with this forever. But great movie. Awesome movie. My favorite movie this year for reasons that go back into my youth.
Yeah, go back 20 years.
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, sure, Mad Max is the front runner in terms of best films this year. Great job, great music. Everything was good. I really liked it.
I'm glad that my blind faith in JJ was not.
Yeah, definitely.
Was not in vain.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll be back after a short break, and we're going to get into interesting news that neither of us know about, and we're going to talk about off the top of our heads.
Random things coming up.
You can listen to Cyrus Says from our apps on iOS, Android, or our website, cyrussays.in. You can also listen to services like iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcasting softwares. It's cyrussays.in.
Cool, welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast with me, Tejas, and Jishnu. So man, this is the part of the show where we do the random bits of information that we have both kind of researched and either of us don't know about, and you're going to tell me right now, and I'm going to give an opinion on it.
So in all honesty, this is basically just stuff that we looked up on the way to the studio on our phones.
I just got one for you today, so you start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Nicolas Cage.
Oh man, I already love it. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read out the first
Sure.
couple sentences of this article. In his latest movie, Nicolas Cage has to return a dinosaur skull worth more than $250,000 to Mongolian officials after it was smuggled into the United States by a paleontologist described as one-man black market in prehistoric fossils. Wait, no.
There's
Hang
more.
on. That's not a movie. That's real life.
What?
So, apparently, this skull called the Tyrannosaurus Batar, I think, Batar, I don't know how to say it, which is a smaller version of the T-Rex, was bought by the actor back in 2007, and he paid $276,000 for it. He
my
outbid
God.
Leonardo DiCaprio for this thing, and blah 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 blah. He's had it for a while. It's not entirely clear how the skull.
So he smuggled it into the
He
States.
smuggled it in. It's not entirely clear how it made its way into the country, but he got it.
Boom, Nicolas
and
Cage, that's the
somehow
answer.
they found out about it, and so now he needs to return this $276,000 Tyrannosaurus
God.
skull.
That is such an
So
so Nicolas Cage.
He went from national treasure
That's
to like
what I just
national returning stuff to national
to other people's national stuff.
security.
Wow, I really did think it was a synopsis for a film.
Yeah, right.
Wow. And you know what? We really have just reached that point when Nicolas Cage's real life is just far more interesting than his bizarre movies also. That's just, it's so Nicolas Cage to just do something really random. Wow.
But I like the idea that he outbid Leonardo DiCaprio. I can just I want to imagine the two of them just sitting in a room with somebody going, sold. And
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage and DiCaprio is just like,
I win
I never
nothing.
win an Oscar. I never win a Tyrannosaurus skull. I can't even buy a skull.
Oh my God.
Freaking Ghost Rider beat me to this.
Oh my God, there was that really funny meme also, just aside, where, Steve Harvey, the guy who announced the wrongness,
Yeah.
he was just like, the only way Leonardo DiCaprio is going to win an Oscar is if Steve Harvey is coming out. The winner's name. I just thought that was so funny. Anyway, sorry, that was great though. Nicolas Cage story, always good.
What do you
always
have?
really good. This is actually pretty nerdy. Tom Holland, who's playing Spider-Man, officially been tweeted about that he was on the Doctor Strange set.
Ooh.
And there's a photograph and everything. Do you think there's going to be a cameo?
Well, when does Strange come out?
Strange is out next year, so it's like November, I think.
So what's the release order now?
It's next is Civil War, then Strange. Then after that is going to be Guardians 2, and then Spider-Man.
Ah.
Yeah, and then Thor at the end of
Well,
the
that
year.
makes sense. I mean, Strange is also in New York. Mm-hmm. So
Possible. Because they've had a lot of really good stories together. Right after Civil War, in fact, is just that whole, where Aunt May is shot, and, there's a bunch of things. That's why Brand New Day, that entire run happened. And actually, Doctor Strange was a lot of, a big part of it is that, he uses mystical powers to make everyone forget that he reveals his identity in Civil War, which is really strange. No, actually, it's not him, but he's part of it. There's a guy called Ezekiel who he makes a deal with to save Aunt May's life and all that stuff. It's pretty convoluted. But I think just generally, having Benedict Cumberbatch being, the serious, arrogant self play across, this young kid, that would be cool, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Oh, totally. Have you read the Disassembled?
No, actually, I
thing?
haven't. I mean,
so it's
yeah.
a bunch of tiny little 20-page
Like
stories.
one-shots, okay.
Yeah, essentially. And there's one which has the two of them in it, which is about right after the incident at the mansion happens in Civil War, and then in Disassembled, in this one particular, it's about Scarlet Witch and about Doctor Strange and the Beast.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what exactly went down and why she did what she did, and
For
yada
House
yada.
of M, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Spidey somehow just basically tags along.
Okay.
And what I really like about it is that while Strange and Beast are trying to be like, well, Strange is talking about like the mysticism about the whole thing and
Yeah.
like how she manages to do these magical things that are really just science that you don't understand yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And Beast is like, well, let's talk about logical things. This makes actually no sense. Spider-Man is just the voice of
Everyone.
guys, it's it's really friggin' cool that you can do these things, but I'm just pissed off, and I think you guys need to be more pissed off about this as well, because they're just trying to break this thing down, trying to
Logically,
understand this at the core. And he's
yeah.
like, can we just go and kill her? Because
Wow.
she killed a lot of us,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that is not okay.
No, that's great,
Which is
yeah.
I've never really seen Spidey so how do I put it? Blunt.
Real. Yeah, blunt.
Blunt
yeah.
about
Yeah.
his
No,
emotions.
he's cool. And I think I just not wondering about the number of cameos he has before his actual film comes out. So I just wonder how they're going to set that up without having to do the whole origin.
Is he in Civil War?
Yeah, he is. They've
Yeah.
already shot his cameo sequence and everything like that.
Maybe we'll just see a bunch of Peter Parker.
Maybe that's it.
That'd be cool.
But I mean, Peter Parker is not as important as Spider-Man.
Right, but
in
I mean,
this
but
universe.
maybe now they want him to be. I mean,
I don't know.
they might say the MCU Spidey is, Bruce Wayne to Batman, like how Nolan saw.
Fair
You see
enough.
more of Peter Parker than you see Spider-Man,
Oh, maybe.
which could be
guess.
cool at least up until his
actual
own movie.
Yeah.
So we get to
So
know
I
Peter
think
Parker well.
His movie's just gonna boom, start off right off the bat. He's Spider-Man, and that's it.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think they've also mentioned that there's not going to be much of an origin. Anyway, next.
So the
You
other
got
one,
last one.
The last one is actually back to Star Wars a little bit. But did you hear about this? That for the longest time, they were considering calling the movie Shadow of the Empire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you read the book?
No, so that's
play the game. It was a game and a comic book.
Right.
Not a comic book. It was a novel.
There was a novel called Shattered Empire.
No, there was a novel and a comic and a video game called Shadows of the Empire.
Okay, yeah. I know about the game, yeah.
By Steve Terry, or something like that. I forget.
Right.
I played the video game for like a month at best. It was really crappy, and this was like back in like 90 something, and my computer just couldn't handle it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was called Shadow of the Empire.
Yeah.
Not Shadows, technically,
because
it's called. Because it's not canon.
Oh, this is not canon anymore.
It's not canon anymore.
Okay,
so
cool.
they had called it something that was not canon, and that's kind of what they kept it as for the longest time.
Maybe that's
until they revealed that they were doing it.
That's probably what the next movie name could be.
Shadow of the Empire.
Yeah, like Empire Strikes Back. Shadow of the First Order now, I guess. Yeah, but that's weird.
But the First Order is a Shadow of the Empire.
But then it doesn't show that the Empire is winning or the First Order is winning in the second film, which is what the how it always has
Strikes
been.
Back. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Not bad. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested about like. So
okay, I know we can't shut up about this, but I have to bring up one more point though. I'm very, very curious why it's no longer clones.
Well, that was decided a long time
and
ago.
Clones and all these things. Like what?
That was decided a long time ago. It's because so in the Clone Wars also what happens is because they've been programmed to behave a certain way, and a lot of them like Rex and all these guys have removed these chips from their heads, which would program them to execute Order 66. So I think it's just like basically they found that stormtroopers were much more.
Wait, so in the original trilogy, were they all like individual people?
Yeah.
Really?
Of course, yeah. They're all stormtroopers in
Oh, they're all actually? Oh, shit.
There's only one, which is called the Fire First Legion, which is like the main kind of selection of stormtroopers, which are like the important guys. But most of them are regular folk.
Okay.
Who have been like,
because somebody
taken from their family.
referenced some guy aboard the Star Destroyer mentioned like, you guys would be better off if you were clones.
That's what Kylo Ren says.
Kylo Ren says that, yeah.
If you use clones. But in Rebels also, in Star Wars Rebels, they show like how kids who have different backgrounds taken from their parents and exactly what Finn has kind of gone through and just become stormtroopers. So yeah, I love the clone troopers. They're the best. But stormtroopers for the win. Cool.
Anywho,
I think we're done a lot of Star Wars today, man.
We're done for now.
Cool. So yeah, man, I guess that's our episode. Next one, I really want to do the best of list though. We should really count off. Yeah,
we'll get that.
2015. Anyway, so I'm sure people have crazy theories also. So I think if you guys have anything to say about it, and I'm sure everyone does, everyone has a theory these days, you can get in touch with us. Contact geekfruit@gmail.com, or you just find us on our multiple platforms, which is on Facebook, Twitter, etc. Yeah.
All of it, Geek Fruit HQ, our website, geekfruit.in.
Yeah, actually, our website is up and running like full-fledgedly now.
Full-fledged?
Yeah.
Not like half-fledged?
No, full.
Not like a fledgling?
No, full.
Full-fledged?
Full.
Oh,
like, sometimes you order like biryani and they ask you, do you want half or you want full? This is full. Our website is a full biryani.
Yeah, alright then.
Cool.
Toodaloo.
Full stop.
Bye.